The John Lebang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised.
Worldwide and out to the greater universe, you're listening to the John Lebang Show.
What an unmitigated disaster that first debate was. It was so bad that it confirms to me that voting this election is just supporting the destruction of America. Because that's what we saw last night. We saw a concerted effort between both parties and the moderator on just offering you a bunch of nonsense, a bunch of chaos, symbolic of the state of the country. And it can't be any more symbolic than what we saw last night. President Donald Trump, who was absolutely rude in how he performed in this first debate. I mean, absolutely rude by always jumping in when he had and agreed to the rules of the debate. Yet the questions offered by Mr. Wallace there were absolutely the talk about Trump's taxes. You only paid $750 in taxes. And what did we get out of Trump? A half-ass answer. When he should have said, I'm trying to work it so none of us have to pay that many taxes. But he then he went ahead and just said, well, Joe Biden and people like him made the tax code, so I just took advantage of it, which we all do to the best of our abilities. If it's in the tax code and we can save some money, fine, sure. But the answer that Trump gave was so poor and half-assed. I mean, he didn't even show up. He mailed in that whole debate. In fact, I thought Biden held his own pretty well for a doddering old man. You could tell he was having trouble, and he would struggle at times to come up with the correct sentencing. And he's definitely not Obama in the way he comes across, the style. He's lost a step or two or three. He got angry at Trump, and I was getting angry with Trump, but I was also getting angry with Trump because it's like he didn't even show up for the event. He didn't want to be there. And I think this was a perfect example of a setup. I think both parties went in, maybe even discussed it between each other behind the scenes, but they went in to have a debacle of a debate so that maybe we won't have any more of these in the future. Because why should we have debates between two people who are doing nothing to really forward the American way of thinking? And I know you Trump supporters are going to deny that, but he wasn't out there promoting freedom by any means. He actually, in front of the whole world, admitted what we've been telling you, that he's going to use the military to distribute the vaccines. Now I'm sounding like Biden, having to repeat my words because I can't get them out right. I'm kind of flustered with that whole thing because we needed to find out some real information during that first debate, and what we found out is it's just going to be more chaos. The candidates participated in the chaos. The country is in chaos. And the news media, perfectly on display, and those Fox people may not like this, but Perfect. The fake news was there last night, even though it was Fox. So now we move on from this first debate with a sense of we're in big trouble. And again, my position is we shouldn't be voting this time around. We should sit this out because we saw last night why we should sit this out. Neither one of those guys came there to be that serious. They were there to just waste the country's time. By the way, welcome to the show, everybody. I know I just started off the get-go there, but it was such a spectacle. I mean, when we think about how the rest of the world is going to view our leadership after the first debate, nobody's going to take us seriously. So if we're going to elect one of these two guys, just remember the world's not going to take us seriously. And it's amazing that Hillary Clinton is still a better candidate than Joe Biden. I thought Hillary would have been far worse of a candidate. You know, they upgraded with Joe. No. Hillary, at least, was quite coherent in her debating skills. Joe would have to repeat himself, would have to fix his sentence. He'd start saying something and then have to stop himself, and you can see he close his eyes and kind of regroup his thought a little bit, and then went forward. Because Joe Biden really isn't prepared to be the president of the United States. He's past his prime. Yet, this is what the Democrats have offered us in opposition to Donald Trump. This is the best they had, which was a downgrade from Hillary. And Hillary was practically the worst candidate you could put up against a guy like Trump's. So again, here we're looking at it. It's like, you see, even though the country is in chaos, the debate is in chaos, that the best option is still Trump of the two candidates. And Trump scored some points last night, but he didn't show any presidential stature. Again, he mailed that in. It's like the election. They're just mailing it in. It's symbolic that is one of the hot topics for this election is the mail-in voting. Because they're mailing it in, the people are mailing, everybody's mailing in this election. And we're going to deserve whichever one we get, because we're not going to hold these people accountable for anything. And whoever wins the 51% is going to put down on the other 49%. That's what's going to happen. Because that's what happens in a democracy. And that's not what we were supposed to be in this country. But when you have Biden, who's a straight-up Democrat, and Trump, who's a former Democrat who just took over the Republican Party, you see that we're more lean towards not the Republic side of things, but we're more leaning towards the socialist side of things anyways. And Trump brings up the socialists, which Chris Wallace and Biden pretty much kind of blocked in their right. You know, they don't want that brought up. And it's pretty clear that Fox News is part of the malpractice media. Because again, Wallace worried more about $750 of Trump paying in taxes, if that's the case. He's worried about that. And Trump, who had just a half-hearted response, because he should have said, listen, I'm trying to make it easier for all Americans, and the best way to do that is lowering taxes for everybody, if not paying less than $750 apiece. Because I, as a commentary host here, I don't care how much a person pays in taxes. It's a moot point because taxes are theft on the individual anyways. And if you don't see that, you and I can't even begin to comprehend anything else. We're too far apart. But these guys, the showmen we had last night, who were putting on a show for us, it was the circus act of 2020. We got the first ring of the circus. I don't know if we're going to have any more. And I don't know, unless they find a way to narrow this, how things work, so they can actually have a civilized conversation. I don't know why it'd be even worth it. And I don't know how I'm going to cover them in the future. Because I had enough after 20 minutes of this stuff. Listen.
Not what you've said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now.
I had enough of this after 20 minutes. I wanted off, but because I wanted to cover this on my show, I listened to the whole damn thing. That way you didn't have to listen to it either, and I can play you some highlights, but there's really no highlights. Trump scored a few points here and there. Biden did better than I thought he would do, and better than many people thought he did, or thought he would do. Yet, you could see at times that man was struggling to get it right. He'd start a sentence, have to stop. You'd see him, he'd close his eyes, focus really hard. Biden was as there as he could be in his head.
Medicaid would automatically.
Trump didn't really show up. He had a few points he scored, but overall it was just almost a bullying tactic. And I'm sure the people on the left are going to say that. Boy, Twitter was ablaze during the whole thing last night. I kept track of that during the debate as well. And, here we go. We have people on the left and the right arguing for their guy. When I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, last night was a perfect example why we shouldn't even cast our vote at all this election. We should, as the American people, cancel the election, tell both parties to stick it, and start from scratch as far as the people inside the government. And I know that's so far-fetched. I've even heard from one of my listeners that they've never heard anybody talk like this. It's a left or right paradigm, and that's all there is in this country. Well, where has that led us? That led us to a debate that was filled with chaos, a country that's filled with chaos. Why Trump? And he hit on some of the factors that these Democrat cities are in chaos, and they're led by Democratic governors or led by Democratic mayors. But to drive some of the points home, he didn't do that. He showed up after Biden told him to shut up. He goes, I better say something actually relevant. So when we're looking at this stupid debate from a commentary point of view, it wasted the nation's time. It wasted all of our time, the people who had to listen to this jibber jabber, that we had no new revelations. I don't think it changed anybody's idea on who they're voting for, who they're not voting for. All it did was show in plain sight, right there for y'all to see, if you were paying attention, they are leading this country into chaos. And it doesn't matter which party it is. They are leading us into chaos. We're going to take our first time out, folks. Hey, Uncle Shady, where are they going?
Hey, you, get back here. The John Lebang Show will be right back.
Are you in need of commercial or residential window cleaning? Do you need your office cleaned? Maybe custodial work? How about some gutter cleaning? If you do, then call Pane in the Glass. For a beautiful shine that's crystal clear, call Pane and the Glass. You can find them on Facebook at Pane and the Glass.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's better than an Eye-Raider convention.
And don't you love the after-debate commentary in the malpractice media? Who won? Who lost? Well, I'll tell you who lost the debate, ladies and gentlemen. The American people. They lost. Because they wasted an hour and a half of your time by doing the debate the way they did it. You can blame Trump. You can blame the moderator. You can blame Biden. You can blame the two-party system. All they did was show to us and the world that this country is in chaos and we have no real leadership up for election this time around. You have the left or the right or the left. And the questions from the moderator, I was disgusted. Like, can we get to the crux of things? Let's talk about real issues. But the racist issue was brought up once again, as if America is some racist country or something. Probably the most diverse country on the planet. Probably in the history of the world on top of it. But, you know, it's racist. Why is it racist? Well, according to Joe Biden's latest ad, and we're going to play it for you right here.
Joe Biden has a plan to invest in black-owned businesses, black home ownership, black workers, black futures, in black America. As America's next president, he'll invest in us.
In a black America. If Joe Biden and his ad team isn't racist, then I don't know what is. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Biden is telling you in this ad that this is going to be a black America. Not an America for Hispanics, not an America for anything but black. That's what he's saying. What is going on with this country? You want to talk about racist? Is that not the most racist ad you have ever heard? Nothing on the Trump side has been anything that close. I mean, he gets asked about denouncing the Ku Klux Klan or white supremacist groups, I think is the proper way it was put. And then Wallace, who's an idiot, lumps militias into that question. Why couldn't you say, Mr. Trump, this is why Trump didn't want to answer the question, by the way, because it was asked, militia groups were loaded in there in the question with white supremacist group, as if they're the exact same thing. Although the Constitution talks about militias. They're an essential part of protecting our freedom. Yet Chris Wallace lumps them in with white supremacists. Doesn't talk about black supremacy or any other supremacy by any other group. So he's on the side of Biden, I guess. He wants that same America that Biden is promising if he wins. So in the overall scope of this election, if Trump wins, we get more of the same. We get more riots and burning of cities, looting, protests, chaos. If Biden wins, it's going to be more of the same. Except from his angle of promotion for the presidential, he's going to go ahead and say, it's nobody's America but black America. Can you believe that? How is that not the most racist ad in the history of this country? Yet we're inundated with this. I found this on YouTube. It's just out there on YouTube. When I was going to watch a few AC/DC videos, because we'll talk about that later. Boy, there's some good news coming that over there. Might be the only good news in my perspective in a long time. But here I am going to watch a few AC/DC videos just to get in the groove of AC/DC again. Favorite band. And these Biden ads come up, and the one about investing in black America, because he wants to end the country like that. That's his goal, according to that ad. Nobody else is going to matter. Which is fitting, I guess, in the overall scenario, the plight we're in right now. And again, I sitting this, there's no way I can give my support to this election. And I'm not disparaging anybody who does, but I don't understand how you can vote for Joe Biden. Because he's just not all there. And what he's promising, masks, black America, higher taxes, he didn't counter the Trumpster on the vaccines either. He wants to distribute the vaccines as well. He just doesn't believe Trump can do it in an effective way. Trump said right there during the debate that he's going to have the military do it. That's got to scare most of you Americans out there if you're really listening, right? That the plan is to have the military distribute vaccines to the people. That doesn't sound like it's going to be a voluntary program, does it? No, it sounds like it's going to be pretty much demanded of you. Because the military doesn't do things nicely. That's not their job. If you wanted something done nicely, you'd go get a lot of flower children or something to distribute these vaccines. Get them all high, give them some flowers, give them the vaccine, and say, okay, whoever comes up to you and wants a vaccine, just shoot them up. Flower child is probably used to shooting some things up. So as I try to comment on the whole thing, all I can say is I can't support this stuff. I'm not going to be voting. I'm encouraging the rest of the country to sit this one out, because if you vote for either one of these guys, you're putting your support behind them. And unlike the election of 2016, where we had an unknown in Trump and we had a known villainous in Hillary, this time we've got two commodities we know, and neither one of them is a shining example of Americanism. Are we a united country? You can't have diversity, as I've said in the past, and be united. They are polar opposites. We have to believe in individual liberty, self-governance, and there wasn't one candidate last night during the debate that pushed freedom. And you on the Republican side, you have to be sitting in bewilderment, because what you heard last night from your president was, well, I can't say the word, but it's a something blank show. That's all. All he did was interrupt. The whole night looked staged to me. It was It was a circus. It was a purposeful wasting of the American people's time, proving that whatever comes from this election is going to be chaos. We saw just a 1 hour and 30-minute sample of what is in store for us from here on out after the election and beyond. And it's hard to discuss the actual points of what was debated because it wasn't really debated. It was shouted at. It was argued. There was no structure to the whole event, and it's just a sham at this point. And I don't know why we as a people should put up with this malarkey any longer. We need to cancel the election, tell all of our politicians they're all fired. We're impeaching all of you. Because it's not just Donald Trump's fault. It's the entire apparatus of the two-party system that is putting this country into chaos, that has wreaked havoc on the health system, and Joe Biden defending Obamacare, and I know he has to because that was his boy, Obama. But Obamacare has wreaked havoc on people like my life, since the very beginning. And when we have only one party deciding everything, it's no different than if we have the two parties who work against us always. And we're never going to straighten this country out, ladies and gentlemen, if we continue to support this two-party system. So what do we do about it? Most people aren't going to sit out the election. And can you believe the amount of text advertising and that you're getting? Because I know twice a day I'm getting some form of text. One from a Republican, one from a Democrat. You supporting this guy, you supporting that guy. Why isn't that against the law? How did they get my number? How did they get your number? Why are they allowed to do that? Because they're part of the two-party system? Do you see how corrupt the two-party system is, that they can somehow data mine your information so they can contact you directly, unsolicited? Trump was discussing that as well, with that you have to solicit a ballot if you want to be an absentee voter. Yet, I know I'm getting stuff from my state saying, hey, here's your chance to get your absent or your mail-in vote by doing this. That was unsolicited. I don't want the state going, hey, here's an easier way. Mail in your vote because this election doesn't matter. Just mail it in, like the candidates are mailing it in, like the two parties are mailing it in. Whoever wins, we're in big trouble, folks. And, well, that's the big ball of wax. We'll be right back as we are up against another break. Stay tuned.
Don't move a muscle.
The John Lebang Show will be right back.
With lots of fun and excitement. Yes!
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is your one-stop shop for tuxedos and men's quality suits. We go the extra mile to make sure your tux or suit is the perfect fit. Our huge selection is second to none in the state.
Looking good. Outstanding customer service.
And we're located on Dix Toledo in Southgate. Call today, 734-285-3253.
Jim's Tuxedo and Menswear is the place to be.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to Jim's Tuxedos and Menswear.
You know I had to come to the best.
That's right.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
If you want to contact the John Lebang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look them up at John Lebang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John Lebang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
So somebody out there, can you tell me why Chris Wallace didn't even discuss the so-called accomplishments in the foreign policy by Trump? Trump has had some recent wins in the foreign policy department. Yet that wasn't brought up. That wasn't part of the discussion, so that Biden would have to discuss that as well. They left all that, and why didn't Trump bring it up? The Abraham Accord, where he's got the Middle East working together peaceably to the point where they put together a treaty, even though they really had no conflict to make a treaty, but whatever. I'm talking the United Arab Emirates and everybody that was involved in the Abraham Accord. Then some of the other things that were brought up, Trump had just signed executive orders. He's talked bad about white supremacist groups in the past, and he avoided the whole thing. He didn't want to be there last night. So if he had to be there, he was going to disrupt it. I don't think he wants to debate either. I don't think either one really wants to take the time to debate, because they know it's a sham. Whatever the results of the election are going to be, it doesn't matter. They told us last night that it possibly will take months to count the ballots in this new way of voting. And is that what you want from your elections, ladies and gentlemen? Why is it so hard? Remember, freedom takes risk. That means voting takes risk. And the people, and yes, now I'm disparaging you who are just mailing in the votes because you're cowards to go down to the polling station. And I'm not in support of voting this time around. But if you're going to vote, go down there in person. Do it in person. Freedom requires risk. And if you can't go down there in that environment, if you're too cowardly to go down, I don't think you deserve a vote. That's just me. And now they're making it so easy for anybody and everybody to vote. Your vote isn't going to count, even if the election was on the up and up. Because the more people who vote, the smaller your voice is. Simple math, ladies and gentlemen. And people who have no stake in the financial side of this country, in other words, if they're not paying taxes, or they're getting more taxes back than they pay in, their vote is only going to support things that will continue to keep their money rolling in the way they like it. That most people are going to go to the polling this year. It's almost like people they're walking around with blinders that both parties are the problem at this point. And I know some people that are listening right now are going to go, I have to vote. We can't let so-and-so in. Listen, that may be your opinion, but so-and-so on either side is going to bring some form of chaos to this country. And after the Republican side of things pushed the country to the right to get some things done, like they spoke about in the debate about the repeal of Obamacare, well, I'm sorry. The American people moved the country to the right to eliminate that. It's just the linguini-spined Republicans couldn't get it done while they had a Republican president. They did fine when they had a Democrat president, and they knew it wouldn't be repealed because that's the job of the Republicans, is to be the defeat mechanism for the country. They're the losers. They can't push back on what the so-called left does. They act like they do, but when they get power, they fail to come through in the end on the things they promised. So what is the point of voting for Republicans when they're not going to pull back the country from what the left had did prior? And the left will just shove everything down your throat, whether you like it or not. They don't sugarcoat it. They may pay you for it, as they're paying a lot of people to sit home, and they want more people, according to Biden. People need help, more help. And Trump's supposed to sit down with Pelosi and Schumer and work all this out, right? They still own only one of the branches, and I don't even know if you want to call it that, one of the branches of Congress, let alone they don't own all of Congress. The Senate and the House of Representatives are split politically, but that's one part of Congress. And the part where they were getting to stacking the court with Biden, he avoided, and he did a really good job either avoiding or deflecting answering certain things, not only about his son, but about stacking the Supreme Court and on other issues like Antifa and all that. He just avoided it, pushed it aside, didn't want to answer it. Trump answered it in his roundabout way that made absolutely no sense. When you finished it, it was the same. He could have tweeted one tweet and said the same thing for a 2-minute response that he had on specific subjects. And so when we tally this whole debate up, it boils down to there is nothing being offered by either party that is going to save this country from the onslaught of chaos that is coming this way. In fact, in my opinion, they are encouraging it, and we're going to see in this mail-in voting that we aren't going to feel very comfortable with whoever wins, because there's going to be an asterisk next to the whole election because of the mail-in voting, because of the COVID, and because of 100 other factors. So I, again, am imploring whoever listens to this broadcast that we need to sit this one out. It isn't worth our time. They mailed in that debate last night. It was chaos. They're mailing in the voting. They're mailing in the whole election because it really doesn't matter. They already know who's going to be the next president, if it's going to be a continuation of Trump or a Biden/Harris presidency, because it won't take long. Trump did bring this up, not very forcefully, but he did bring it up that Harris has been talking that it's going to be her presidency, because they're already planning that, folks. They're already the Democrats have rigged this election on their side of things, like they always do. That's how Hillary got in. Biden is put in there to be the happy, smiley old man to make everybody feel comfortable. And Harris will be the real president. They're using a faux campaign with a papier-mâché character in Joe Biden. He is there to look like an old man who wants to help the country, when in fact he's the furthest thing from that. And I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow this stuff right up into the election, because it is nauseating. One debate, and I'm pretty much done. I hope they don't have any more, because it's not worth my time. And reporting to you, my listeners, what happened in a debate, when nothing really happened in a debate, and you can hear the mainstream media basically declaring who they thought was the winner. But the loser, as I said earlier, was the American people. And what the rest of the world witnessed last night, they witnessed a country that is falling apart at the seams, and the leadership of this country isn't equipped to handle it, no matter who it is. The new guy that wants to be the president, or the guy that's still there and had no experience, and it's showing a little bit that the lack of experience in government. Because the coup wouldn't have happened to somebody who knew government in and out better. And maybe that was the point. So, I'm a little flabbergasted. I mean, I knew all this was coming down the pike. We knew it was going to be a disaster. We've been talking about it for a long time. But the closer it gets, the more we see the pillars crumbling under the weight of the BS. And eventually, it's all going to come crumbling down. And depending who wins the election, it's going to crumble one way or the other. But it's coming down. And as I've said, and going to continue to say, keep preparing, folks. Get yourself in a position that if the government falls apart and the chaos spreads across the country, that you're as well equipped as you can be to deal with the uncertainty of this new world that is being birthed, and these labor pains that we're going to be going through over the next few months are going to be horrific and painful, and it's going to be so trying on our minds, our souls, our general emotional state. And Trump did bring up some points on why the lockdown is harmful and why he wants to open it up. And Biden clearly did not deny that he wants to lock down the country. He's been clear, and we've played it for you. He's going to make mandatory masks. He wants to re-lock down the country, when that has absolutely nothing to do with freedom. Folks, if you want freedom, you have to accept the risk of it. Now, government can't force you to accept it. You have to accept what is coming. If there's a boogie-woogie virus, you have to be responsible enough to decide if you want to go out in the world or stay home away from it. Government does not have that right. Show me where in the Constitution. You can't show me that. In fact, the Constitution restricts the government in almost every way, because our founding fathers knew how destructive a overreaching government is. They lived it. Another break is on the way, folks. Zipping through the show. We'll be back in a little bit with our final segment this hour.
Smoke 'em if you got 'em.
Because the John Lebang Show will be right back
after this.
That's guaranteed. Yes.
Absolute Skin and Body Care, located in Livonia, Michigan. If you're in need of laser hair removal, skin care, laser tattoo removal, or laser hair regrowth, call Absolute Skin and Body Care. They're located at 37625 Ann Arbor Road, Suite 105 in Livonia, Michigan. Their phone number is 248-533-0448. Absolute Skin and Body Care. Give them a call.
You're listening to the John Lebang Show.
It's huge. Now I got to tweet about it. Okay, enough of that garbage. We'll just cancel the politics and that kind of stuff for the rest of the show. Want to get into a subject that I brought up earlier, and that's the band AC/DC. Over the past few days, and I suspect it's going to continue on a daily basis until there's an announcement, but they've been updating their logos on all their social media. They've been teasing something called Power Up, which something tells me that's the name of the new album. So I think we're going to get a single real soon with a date of an album release. Now, I have a little bit of inside info on what may be the release date of the new album. I don't know if it's called Power Up, but I'm suspecting that it probably is that because they used a hashtag Power Up. Now, again, that is only an opinion. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure my information is correct on the release date, and we're going to get a release date around November 18th. The album's going to be dedicated to Malcolm Young, and around November 18th, and I'm thinking it's going to be the 18th, but it's going to probably be right around there is when the album will be released, just in time to get those Christmas sales and all that. Maybe there's even another Christmas song on there. We don't know. But with all the little tidbits that we've been getting over the last few days, and I suspect, as I said earlier, we're going to get more until there's a single released. And I'm thinking the single is going to be within the week. Because AC/DC's track record in releasing albums, and I know this very well because I'm a huge fan, and I have been there for every single album release since 1983. So I pretty much know their modus operandi when it comes to setting up an album release when a single comes out. On the last album, which was Rock or Bust, they put out the song Play Ball. I think it was September, right around when the World Series, I think it was actually a World Series kind of thing where it was debuted on Major League Baseball or whatever. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And the album came out a couple months later. And we're almost in the exact same scenario. And AC/DC does like to put their albums out more in the winter, probably for setting up tour things. I'm not sure about that. But I'm believing that November 18th, this is from inside information, so take that as whatever it is, with a grain of salt or whatever, but November 18th is probably the release date of the new AC/DC album. Their hashtags have said, or have used they've used hashtags Power Up, and all the little, they had this little mini video where it had their little lightning bolt logo trying to turn on. It was a little, just a little, it was almost like the length of a GIF, right? And that came out Monday of this past week. Tuesday, they had an additional promotional item that they put out. I'm suspecting that we're going to get it all week, right up until a single is released, which will probably be on the end of this week, maybe the weekend, or coming up the week after that. That's just an opinion, though, folks. I'm not saying it's actually going to happen. I know an album's coming. We've been reporting it for about a year now. And over, a week or two, maybe even 3 weeks ago, we discussed how Dee Snider has been pushing to get AC/DC to play the Super Bowl. And this, again, the timing would be perfect. They would put out the album in November, have a couple months until the Super Bowl comes up, play the Super Bowl, and then go on some kind of world tour. That's how I see it. Hopefully, by their management and the record company's position, hopefully the COVID thing has passed by then, and they're allowing people to go on tour to play these larger venues. So we can see AC/DC one final time before they retire. Although, the last few albums, we thought that was the end, or at least I thought it was the end. In 2008, when I followed them around the country a little bit, doing their tour, I think I went to 7 or 8, 9 shows. I'd have to go back and really think about that. Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Columbus, Ohio, Detroit, Chicago. I followed them as much as I could until I went broke on that tour, because I was of the belief that their last tour was that was going to be their last album. Well, it was their last album with Malcolm, but then they had the Rock or Bust album. Went to see one show with that until Brian Johnson's hearing went bad, and they had to bring Axl Rose in, and then I boycotted the tour because that's not AC/DC to me. They could have called it something else, but the record company and Angus and everybody had to make a little money after putting out the album. Putting out songs is great, but at this point they put out albums because they want to make a few bucks, millions actually. So now we have a new album coming out, guaranteed. Malcolm's going to be on the album. They used old tracks that Malcolm had recorded, or they had recorded previous songs that they didn't complete. And from other interviews that I've watched with Angus, that's kind of what they would do normally. They would have some new stuff when they would go to start recording or rehearsing to record an album, and they'd rehash some stuff that wasn't complete for the last album or the album before. They go, hey, remember this lick here or this riff? I found this, I created this to go with it. And then that's how they write songs, or at least that's how Angus described in some interviews how they write songs. And if they had all these old tracks and they just used all these old tracks, it's going to be really cool to hear that stuff with Malcolm on it. It kind of reminds me, because I hear, I've heard that this is going to be unprecedented, but the Beatles put out that Free as a Bird song, I think it was in the 80s or early 90s, and that was the same type of thing. It was a John Lennon thing that was incomplete. They went in and did all their parts and finished it up and released it. So we had a new Beatles song in the 80s. This is the same thing, except now it looks like it's going to be an entire album, unlike just a couple of tunes. So this is going to be a really cool experience for any long-term AC/DC fan who is just like myself. I always look forward to the new music. We've heard all the classics a million times, and it's great to go to the concert and hear the songs. And even recently, because of the whole album coming out, I've been going through old videos and listening to old tunes and getting to AC/DC again. It's a feel, right? When you know your favorite, it's like going to the concert. You're going to hear the band all night, but you throw in a whole slew of tunes from that band to get you in the mood. Well, that's what I was doing just recently, getting myself in the mood, but it's the new stuff that I'm always craving. The stuff I was listening to outside of a couple old tracks was the stuff from the last few albums. Actually, the last 3, from the Rock or Bust, the Black Ice, and the Stiff Upper Lip album. Not the classics. I've heard them a million times, but there are some really great tunes on those albums that most people who are fans of AC/DC are the fans of the old stuff, and the new stuff kind of just slips by. And when they go see AC/DC, they're there to hear the You Shook Me's and the TNTs and the Dirty Deeds songs, and not the new stuff. But people like myself thrive on the new stuff. We've been there, or at least I have. I don't want to speak for other people, but I know there are other really deep, diehard fans like myself that have been there for album after album after album as they were released. I fell in love with AC/DC in 6th grade when I heard Back in Black album. I think it was at school. We played a cassette. I was like, oh, these guys are great. Ever since then, I love them. And by 1983, I was a full-fledged member of the AC/DC Nation, to the point where I was following them, and it was much harder to follow these bands back in the day than it is now, because there was no social media. So to find out AC/DC doing an album and when the release date was, you had to read the rock magazines, and you had to just stay up on the information the best you could that way. Now it's a whole different deal. It's so much easier to find out AC/DC's doing this, they're doing that, what's going on, and other bands as well. Some of my best memories were buying tickets. That's a whole different experience you young people will probably never have in your life, and it is just such a great experience, is sitting out all night to get tickets for your favorite band, because everything now is bought online. Back in the day, we didn't have that option, so we would sit out at the local Hudson store, and they had like the equivalent to Ticketmaster. It might even have been Ticketmaster back in the day. I don't remember, but we would sit out all night. I remember for the Fly on the Wall tour, I walked, because I was really young at the time. I walked from my house about 4 miles to the mall, shopping mall, where there was a Hudson's, and I sat in line. This is like 1 or 2 in the morning. I sat in line till they opened it. I think that was at 9. I was like 3rd in line and got tickets, and they sold out at incredible speeds that way. Now they sell out way too fast because of the online thing and how people can manipulate that to buy more tickets and all that stuff. If they had a ticket limitation when you were buying it in person, you were stuck with that ticket limitation. If it was 4, if it was 8, if it was whatever. But we would have one person, usually it was me for AC/DC. For other bands, it was different. I would be the one that would sit out, because for AC/DC, most of my youth, I would do anything to see those guys. They were, and still are, my favorite rock band of all time. So, as I just bloviated for this entire segment about my favorite band of all time, I mean, I love other ones like Black Sabbath in the winter is probably my favorite winter band to listen to. But overall, AC/DC is number 1. Anyways, I've talked this segment away. We are at the end of the broadcast, so I want to thank you, my listeners, for tuning in once again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the support you've given me. Don't forget, we've got a new special coming up in the coming month. We have the Banger Music Awards coming up, and I mean, the beginning of it is in about a month. I can't believe we're on the verge of that again. So that's incredible. I want to give a big thanks to all of our affiliate stations that carry the John Lebang Show. If you've missed any portion of this broadcast, you want to find out anything else that's going on with the show and the music awards and anything else, please go to our website, www.jlebang.com. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, I want to say thank you once again. My name is John Lebang. We're signing off for now from the Banger Studios.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff. Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.